Now it's time to talk about the digital circus AU of affection. Now, some of you are sort of curious what is AU affection or fandom AU affection, because if you don't spell it right, the answers will come up completely wrong. If you do just AU affection, you just follow the Australian sort of network. If you want the fandom version, just put fandom just a FOI. Of course, what is basically fandom affection AU? Well, how Google described it is basically a sort of sub faction who created AUs. What if a character get affected, the stages, abilities, and also how the effect of the characters changing sort of their relationship, their emotions, into a little bit completely different where they were than before as the original series. But this affection can actually give sort of new abilities that only corrupts the effectees and the rest of it trying to figure out how to survive. This is the reason why it's just sort of exploded, because it gives you sort of interesting sort of scenarios of the characters and wondering how they're gonna get out or how they get affected. You could tackle it different ways because you have this sort of interesting sort of subject matter and tricks everybody. People who like sort of kind of psychology type of character see they're broken down, or you like people who like zombies who will join this even more, or you like people who like the sort of backstory or lore of this affection. You could actually trick every single section on the fandom. This is the reason why affection AU got really popular over the years. Now we gotta actually sort of look into the digital circus affection AU. Of course, before I get started, let me explain how everything will go down. First is introduction, second story, and questions that answer how they got inspired by the creator. Third is basically the stages of each sort of affection, and find the characters and a little bit of a backstory, how they went in or how they affect the story, and final the conclusion. Now, this is the first time on my channel. My name is Rachel. I like to talk about animation, not just animation, reviews, first impressions, cartoon theories, and sometimes, if I have some spare time, cartoon breaking news. Of course, you like how it's going, you like to help my channel, pull a like, comment, and subscribe. That's the only thing you need to do. If not, that's fine. If you do, thank you. Because of you, I'm getting close to my main goal of 2,000 subscribers. And yes, I'm getting close. Every single day, people like you. People pull like, comment, and share. Thank you. Now let's get started of the faction AU of the Major Digital Circus. Now let's get started. Now, the creator's name of this AU called Cemetery Kills, who you can find him on TikTok or Tumblr. Yes, you have to find both to actually get the full story, because he has sort of a comic started coming out of understanding what happened to each character a little by little. It's just sort of the beginning. But if you want to read the comic, you have to go to TikTok to see Cemetery Kills comic. That's the only place you can find the sort of comic. It's just small, it's a couple of issues, but you get intrigued. But you just want the profiles, a little bit the backstories, go to Tumblr, same name, same location, you easily find it. Now, what is the story of this digital circus AU? Now, a fan asked a question of Cemetery Kills, how in the members get affected. And Cemetery Kills took a little while to answer this question because we reveal the twist in the story. So he or she or they decided to sort of briefly tell the beginning in a way, because it all started with Ashley Kane, who attempted to control everybody and stop the infection in the digital circus, because this is why he explains why every single door has a red X, because the red X is where the people were sort of affected. But people believe in the group that Kinger probably knows what is the affection and the cure, but the only problem is Kinger is sort of the type of character who forgets. He's never there. He's always kind of flicking back and forth on the present and the past. But there's another issue that Ashley Kane, who also got affected, now he can't really help the group, and now the group tempted to survive. But on top of all this, Gengo also got affected, but we don't know how and when. It's one of those that you have to read the comic to understand the scenario of the real situation. But the kicker is Pami landed when she actually finally meets Ashley Cosmo. But Cosmo had lost his mind and get affected. Now, what is this sort of affection is sort of the upgraded version of abstraction, but this time you actually can't touch or any of the affected because you'll be affected too. So it's one of those things, have to be careful, don't touch or bite you. But there is a bigger problem because it's not the affection will get you, it's your setting will get you because all the other characters are losing their mind. So it's up to them to figure out not lose their mind, it also not be affected of the rest of it. And on top of all this, tend to actually call to King and sort of ask him some questions. Maybe he could answer the what actually happening and how people get affected to get the cure from him if they can help him remember. So that's basically the whole story to begin with. Now let's talk about the affection of how the stages started. Now, the creator of Cemetery Kills sort of stated how the stages would affect using Rekatha as the example. There are actually 4 stages. The first stage you see Rekatha is the fact if someone get affected, they cut their arm off or whatever body part they got affected. The symptoms is leaking. Specifically, Rekatha have a leaking eye where you see she actually get affected, but the illness is now planted inside her. It's just sort of a matter of time she truly is affected. This is basically the first stage. You realize you are going to be fully distracted by the affection. Now let's talk about the second stage. Now, the second stage, you don't get to worry about abstraction because the abstraction evolved to something else. Because this new affection evolved abstraction, making the worst version of you who you were supposed to be, almost like a twisted sort of sick joke. That is one of the kind of tips of the second abstraction. On top of this, the very beginning you get leak once. Now the second stage, it pushes at the next level. You leak everywhere, to your eye, to your ear, to your mouth, even some cuts you have, losing your complete mind. Of course, this is the reason why some people decide to rip their arms off or something like that. But the only problem is, it's too little, too late. Now it's a matter of time. You start to be fully affected and actually losing yourself. But the only problem is now have a bigger risk to lose your mind, but also losing your depression and humanity, because those two things actually force the new abstraction even more. You actually go faster to transform if you don't have that mentality to calm down and control yourself, because that will actually force the evolution of the abstraction much faster, not ever before. So if you want to find a cure before you fully transform, you must be completely calm and tame. If not, you will completely lose yourself in mere seconds or minutes or hours, depends how far the affection has hit in you. Now let's talk about the third stage. Now, the third stage is sort of covered because they're too gruesome or they hiding for the comment to reveal what the third stage is. But the third stage is the transformation, when everything goes down, when you lose everything, especially with all the midpoints that you cut your arm with the affection start or the cuts or the leakage. This could become more very painful transformation, becoming the twisted version of yourself. That's all I can say of the third sort of stage. Now let's talk about the fourth stage of this disease. Now, the fourth stage or the final stage of this affection is the fact you are now completely fully changed, having more arms, more legs, or weapons to affect others, affect your personality completely change. Only time your personality reappears of the original victim is to lure other people saying, "I'm still here," repeating of soul lines to convince whatever victim you know or used to know to get close enough to affect them of whatever item or arm they have to affect them. Of course, do not get near of the affectee on the final stage because they're now completely gone. They just repeat sort of subtle things that sort of remember before they forget again who they are and what's going on. Now, every single extra arm, specifically where the actual effect started, get more affected arm-ish, if that makes sense anymore. But besides that, they are very dangerous and should never get near it. That's basically the full transformation of the final effect. You have seen it in the image right now, right next to me, that how twisted version of Rockthart really is in her final stage. They don't explain how they get the weapon or the thing that just come out of them in a way. So yeah, you realize this sort of evolving, keep moving, adding things they need to finish their sort of such a manner they attempted to tackle, in other words. But this one makes it very dangerous. They are evolving every time you set them a very unique situation that you don't know they keep evolving to something more horrific or not. But at the very end, this is the final stage, and yes, it is kind of creepy. This is the reason why a lot of people do talk about affection AU, because instead of the creativity they have of how twisted and metal you can actually make this. And you know what? Yeah, it's pretty awesome and also kind of creepy. Now they start talking about the characters, what happened to them, and the stages where they are or they get affected. Now, the first character up to bat will be Pomni. Her health is 90%, she's pretty good. Her sanity, her 58%, that's not very good because if even higher, it would be completely useless in sort of in battle or even talk to someone because she's completely freaking out. The affection, 0. Now, the story or a little bit plot they give this sort of kind of character breakdown, it's basically Pomni is sort of freaking out. She barely got there, see Cosmo sort of fully affected and transformed, able to react and freaking out. On top of all this, she's able not to actually stop crying. On top of this, she have cuts when the first time she met Cosmo, but not affected. This is why she has a bandage on her arm. But she does have a weapon that is completely affected. That's the only thing will protect her and help her calm down of her sanity and have some full control. But it doesn't explain how much this weapon actually works to hand-to-hand combat. I have to say it probably works if I'm just sort of guessing here, because the only way to actually defend yourself, get an item that is affected, but you're able still can hold it in your hand so you cannot be affected also. So it's the only way to push other affected is have the affected weapon to actually help you take it down whatever creature it is affecting. That's all we know, and Pomni is freaking out. Now let's talk about the next character on this list. Now, Rekatha, she is now affected on stage 1, but she does have still good health. She has 96%, that's very good, but unfortunately, her sanity level is on 70, that she easily snap and making worse of her affection, because right now, she's still at stage 1, but her affection is 20%, that she had to calm down and depress down her sanity to able to stable her and actually take more time to be effective. For right now, she's still in high risk. Now, Rekatha get affected is because she was sort of defending Pomni, who attempted to actually protect her to not be bitten by Cosmo. Of course, she's now working hard to find the cure and get empathy of all the people who are affected, but unfortunately, she's the one who got affected first. Now she's trying to figure out how to find the cure and help Kinger to remember his sort of memories to find what is the next stage is to save her and many others. Of course, this is the reason why Rekatha chose not to carry a weapon, because let's face it, there's no point. She is really affected, but she is still freaking out. One of her stages is her arm is starting to be transforming of the second stage, but yet still have some control. She's scared but able to be brave around everybody because she tempted to basically focus on something else. And that's basically what we all know about Rekatha, how she got affected, how she's still working hard and tempted to figure out how to get out this sort of scenario. Now hopefully she will actually get cured in the following comic book stories of the creator is creating. Now let's talk about the second character of this roster. Now, Jax is a type of character you don't want in your own group because he having way too much fun in scenarios. especially his sanity meter is really high, around 68%. But the only problem is it doesn't really affect them. The reason why it's that high is because he's enjoying everything. He's just so giddy in the sort of situation. Of course, his health meter is about 83%. The reason why it's a little bit low than the rest is because he actually hurt himself fighting Zubo a little while ago. Of course, that doesn't help because he's actually making things worse around the team. Especially, he's sort of really scared of the situation, and the only way to handle it is just having fun. This would cause a very bad kind of taste around the community of Digital Circus because none of them want to deal with the crap of Jax, but this is the only way he can handle the situation of the sanity. But Jax still healthy, not affected, having a good time. But of course, Jack had a good idea using an axe and being sort of affected of this axe, use his main weapon to defend around the scenarios he has put himself into. Now that's all the information we know about Jax, but once more, Jax is the type of character that you can never trust or understand what can happen next. Even he doesn't know what he could do next. Now let's talk about the next character on this list. Now, Zubo is basically living her best life equally to Jack, but the only difference is Zubo cannot be affected because she can easily remove body parts of her. In other words, if she get bitten, she easily just switch it up or come up with something else. But on top of all this, her health is pretty high of 88% because she keep fighting with Jax because it's the fun of it, and also she cannot be affected or anything like that. Of course, her sanity is sort of high, but once again, that could be the funness she having around her. This way, her sanity is kind of high, but infected is completely zero all the time because she cannot be affected. But is she also the one who cut the body parts whoever who needs to be replaced or affected? This way she is very useful in the group. But on top of all this, she's actually working with Ragatha best her can to figure out how to help others and also get the sort of cure if possible with Kane. This is why she's very useful and resourceful. But the difference is always Ragatha, always Zubo is the one that always is having her best life because how durable she is and how easy flexible she can actually adapt of every single AU, especially in solving the apocalypse or virus apocalypse. But other than that, I feel that's sort of interesting, especially you could see there's have bites and cuts around her, but it doesn't really affect her that much because once again, she'll be replaced body parts whatever she can. But she also very daring and caring about others. This is the reason why she's always basically the best version of herself of each single AU. Now I can't say much about. Now let's talk about the next character on this list. Now, Kinger is very interesting because it's sort of hard to do whatever you want with Kinger. He's just basically the same thing. But I like it how they introduce his sanity, or the reason why he forgets is because he's there at the very beginning. He saw the chaotic things that would happen to people who got bitten or turned to this sort of virus. This is the reason why he cannot focus because he's trying to forget all the horrible events. But this is the reason why Ragatha will not let him go, who always trying to help him and help him to remind him who he is and his scenario he puts himself into. But at the same time, Ragatha do believe he can actually help. And people wants to help him, but he only helps when he remembers. But on top of all this, Kinger does not much change, he looks the same, but the only difference is he does have a mallet as a weapon who is affected that he used to defend himself and defend others who is basically affected. Health right now he has 89%, sort of obvious, he's always running away, but it's always helping. Sanity is part of the lowest of 12%. If he get bitten, he probably will never be fully affected because he's always calm, always forget the situation he is. Yeah, I guess that's probably his best weapon ever. His chill, because he doesn't really have panicky moments or freak out moments because everything for him, he sort of forgets. And I think that's why maybe make him the most important character in the group. If he ever get bitten or touched about this affection, quite literally, he probably lasts the longest to turning if he can actually turn because he doesn't have pressure inside of him. He doesn't have panic moments. That's what would make him so unique. But yet we don't know he has sort of the answer how the virus begins or the cure of this virus. There's only wait and see. Of course, he does have a little mental to remind himself what's going on in the moment because he has a sort of a chain around his neck to help him to be reminding of. All of that you can't say much about him, but it's just sort of interesting how they adapt him in this sort of AU. Now let's talk about the next character on the list. Now, Gengo is pretty interesting sort of scenario because nobody knows how affected she really is or actually even affected because how her mask sort of protects her. But yet we don't know if she's healthy, insane, or fully affected of the virus. But because of this, no one will get near her or understand what's actually going on with her. In fact, we don't know this is her final step of fully being transformed. It's all about the interpretation of what happened to her and be revealed in the near future of their own comic. But we do know when her ribbons is affected, but just a little bit. But she has a habit of tapping people behind them, but you don't know what she actually trying to do or react. That's what makes her sort of mysterious. You don't know is she even there reacting to something or just the virus trying to confuse you and convince she's there. It's all your bestie, your interpretation. And I think this is the reason why she has multiple masks and her ribbons all over the place because you don't know this is normal for her or this is one of the stages of the virus. But it's all your interpretation, as I said at the very beginning. Now let's talk about the next character on the list. Now, Bubble and Kane is a very interesting sort of scenario. They are now officially fully affected, but we don't know much about Bubble because how much Bubble is connected to Kane. Now, Kane is sort of aware of her own scenario, that he knows that everything's going wrong. He knows he's affected, but he can't react because the affection got to him. Even that he attempted to actually help everybody who's affected, but it was too late for him. The affection took over. But yet, something strange happened to Kane, that he cannot be aggressive. He tries not to be aggressive, but yet be warned, do not get near him because you don't know he would give you the affection or not. But interesting enough, he still replays sort of things of his own mind. In fact, people have basically noticed he does sort of recycle things he mentioned or play games by himself, talking to no one, just sort of saying random things. But yet he still observed around all digital circuits, tempted to maybe help, but never again is sort of your interpretation. And Bubbles, I said at the very beginning, nobody really knows how he get affected or how he does. He's just there. So yeah, I guess each single character affected very strangely and opposite what they do of the original character. For right now, Kane, he has multiple arms, affected all his body, and he barely moves. And that's all we know about Kane and Bubbles. Now let's talk about the final character on this roster. Now, Cosmo now legitimately 100% affected, but leaves 97. There is barely 3% not fully in control. Even that he actually extended, having more legs and his arms having eyes, that you still hear a noise of him. We don't know he's trying to say something or trying to confuse you, thinking someone's still there to get close to be affected. Now, Cosmo does know Pommy for a little bit, and both of them bond for a little while to understanding if they can find an exit. But doing this sort of traveling, figuring out how to escape of digital world, Cosmo didn't realize he was affected. In fact, because of this, it was too late to remove the part that was affected to given a chance, to given a point they maybe find a cure. Unfortunately, it was too late. He was completely affected, at least 97%. We don't know what happened to the other 3%. We don't know he's still there or what. Especially his mouth is completely shut. He can smile, but he cannot move. That's what I mean. He sounds like he's talking or laughing, but we don't know exactly is his mouth, his hands, or other parts of the affection will make sounds. Each single character has a different reaction or different things happen to him that transformation. But all of that, that's all we know of every single character of the Digital Circus for right now. Now, my final conclusion of this AU is pretty interesting because let's face it, this is my first AU affection. Yeah, I really enjoy and see why people really like the affection AU. It's just sort of fascinating how the affection affect others and how people survive is the fascinating thing. But to be fair, some of you are kind of wondering, you didn't tell the full story of this because I never mentioned the comics that deeply. It's for a reason. It's because it barely started. It's just sort of seeing the old 4 or 5 characters talking to each other, how they're feeling, but never really fully showed you what actually happened in between. It's just sort of starting building. This is the reason why I didn't talk that much of the comic. But other than that, I do enjoy it. It's fun, unique, and see how many body parts of a character gets when you're affected, or how they survive, or what body part they should cut off to sacrifice to allow them to survive. Or others like Subo that is just thriving in this sort of scenario because they're built differently. It's just sort of interesting how people react or what they do around this sort of scenario. This is the reason why it's so popular. It's just what if and how they react or do to survive. But other than that, I can't say much. It's just sort of unique and fun. Of course, if this AU affection is popular in my channel, I probably do more AU affection. In fact, recommend me something you think that's sort of fun, and I can probably make another video in the near future. For right now, how you feeling? Do you like this AU affection or you're not? You think it's overrated? Tell me down below. Let me know. I got nothing else to say. Just thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and have a wonderful day. Bye.